Okay, my name is Jeremy Pilgrim. I'm the Managing Director of Building Spatial Intelligence. We're formerly School Property Matters, and for my sins I've been working with school buildings and data for about 30 years now as man and boy. And my ethos from day one has been about building structured data sets of schools. So you look at a picture of a floor plan and it is a pictorial, unstructured piece of data. But there are two main elements to our floor plan. We've got lines and we've got words. My argument is always that the only bit of any value is the words. The lines just give context to the words. And it's the words that we want to populate our databases with, we want to produce our queries with, we want to analyze, and now we want to start feeding this stuff into AI to do more with it. So I've been responsible for creating the models that Paul's using to improve his estates management, and also producing those same models for lots of people in lots of schools and trusts across the country. So we're working on the Great British Energy Solar Programme at the moment to produce 3D models of many schools across the country. Those are now, for facilities management, a three-dimensional database of everything within the buildings that you can work with in your everyday life. So we're at the point now where if I draw a model of the school at the correct size in the real world, correct orientation, correct elevation, it will fit into GIS, so I can model floodplain analysis. It will fit together with your underground surveys of where all your drainage is, so we can start to join those two data sets together. We can use that same model for analysis of the pupil capacity of a school. How many children can you fit in? How do we match it to the demographics of what's coming downstream in terms of numbers of pupils that are coming into the school? And we've got a data set that we can use at a much higher level now, because we can report on it on high level information. So following on from what Jonathan was saying about the importance of getting estates to a trust level, at the trust board level, to see as an important asset, I think we also need to look at estates data as an asset to the trust and to the school, because so many decisions are based on it. So we talked about silos of data and how we need to break down silos. I kind of look at it slightly differently. I think age gives you a different perspective on it, but silos are always going to be here, because how many of you are going to be opened up to the finance system to break down that silo of data? And probably very few of you. So there's a silo that's always going to exist. And if we have a silo, what we want to look at is how we bridge data between silos. And I would argue that everyone here is interested in facilities management, and those facilities are hard physical things. So give everything a reference, and reference it in the account system the same, reference it in the finance system the same, reference it in the estate system the same, and bridge your silos with your data. So what I wanted to talk about today is how we're bringing AI into this. What are we doing with AI? So interestingly, on I think it was one of Joe's slides, she brought up that 34% of schools have got a heat decarbonisation plan. Was that the number that I think it was? So why haven't the rest got a heat decarbonisation plan? Well, we've worked on a programme recently where heat decarbonisation plans were produced for all of the schools in that programme. So we've produced a 3D model in BIM and put that BIM into Power BI for democratization of the data, so that everybody can use it. It's no longer just for the designers and the clever techies sat in a back room to work with BIM. This is now in Power BI, so we can all use it, we can all get benefit from it. So now we can produce a report on some of our estates data. We can get the query we're used to seeing in tabular form, but we can also light up the aspects in a building model within Power BI to show it. So talking about fire doors, we've all seen the examples of a condition survey that says £60,000 to spend on fire doors over the next 5 years. Which doors? The first thing you've got to do when you get that piece of data is go into the building and figure out which doors, or send suppliers in to figure out which doors. But the surveyor's already told you which doors, he's looked at them, he's added them up. So make him click them on a plan, and then we can light them up in Power BI to show you which doors. So we're connecting that data together. But coming back to my HDP, heat decarbonisation plan point of view, that when we've connected this data together now, we've got a model of the building in a form that I can now drop into ChatGPT. Now I use ChatGPT because it's the one we all know the name of, but you can feed it into many different AI engines. But you can drop a 3D model of a building in there, and you can ask it questions about your building, one of which we are matching the answers from ChatGPT on heat decarbonisation plans to the actual heat decarbonisation plans that were produced with great care and detail to see how do they compare, how do they fit together, which is it answering all the questions. And the answer is it's not quite there, but it's very, very close. What you're getting for free from that system through feeding your model in is very close. And we're doing the same with IoT design. So people who want to put IoT into their schools to understand the environment, because if the studies are correct, we can get a 6% improvement in the educational outcomes by improving the environment within which the children are taught. Putting IoT in to figure out what that environment is, really important. Again, feeding a model into ChatGPT, telling it which manufacturer sensors you want and which outcomes you're looking for, is now producing a design and a layout of exactly where to place all the sensors, taking into account all of the aspects of a school, of a secondary school. Obviously the kids are going to want to fiddle with it and pull it off the wall. Obviously it's a school, so we've got posters all over the wall, we've got artwork all over the wall. We've got to position these things in the best environment for the school, not just for what's best for the sensor. And that it's actually coming back with answers and making real suggestions that are great at this time. So you can't get on this bandwagon if you haven't got that data in the first instance. So it's a growing area, and there's an awful lot you can do with it excuse me, that we're playing with right now to figure out how far can this go in terms of the actionable insights from that data on the buildings. But just to close off with a slightly tongue-in-cheek example, many years ago, and it's probably going back about 20 years ago, that we'd done 536 schools for Hertfordshire County Council. We'd drawn detailed floor plans, we'd taken lots of photos, hyperlinked into the plans, and a very highly structured database in their estates management system as a result. Hertfordshire rang me up and said, we've got a problem with swimming pools. There's a type of pool that has an issue, and I need to know which of my pools have this issue. I've got 150 swimming pools. Can you send me all the photographs now? So I'd got a very clever data management person in the organisation, and I said, get me that information. It's dead easy. It's all highly structured in the system. He came back and said, I don't know how it's happened, but we don't have a single photograph of a swimming pool in Hertfordshire. We've missed them all. And at this point, I've got all sorts of things going through my head as to how, why, who am I going to kick, who am I going to shout at, how am I going to tell the customer this. So the first person is the man who runs my site team to collect the data. And I said, John, I want to know what's going on here. Why haven't we got the photos? He said, just give me a minute. And he came back and he said, there you go, there's your photos. And they're all highly structured now. You can click on the hyperlinks in the spreadsheet and it'll jump you to the photo by school. What's the difference? I said, well, Ed looked at the data and asked, give me the photos that were taken within the bounding polygon of a swimming pool. And John knew that we didn't take photos in swimming pools, we took photos of swimming pools. And he asked for all the photos that were in the room within which the swimming pool was contained. So the point here is that's my very first example of prompt engineering. If you ask the wrong question of your data, you'll get the wrong answer. So whilst it's great having all the data highly structured and correct, make sure you know what questions you want to ask of it before you start. And on that, I'd like to close.